on YouTube within the next 48 hours. So if you want to be on YouTube, make sure you ask a question, and I hope it's a relevant one to the discussion this evening. In terms of housekeeping, it would be advisable if you would check your mobile phones, make sure the mobile phones are all turned off. We're not expecting a fire practice this evening, so if the fire alarm goes off, please vacate the building by any of the nearest fire exits, and the meeting place is at the front of the school reception. The other thing I'd like to mention is you'll have seen on your seats there are headphones there. They're there because we have got facilities for bilingual translation here. If you feel that you need to use those, you just turn them on, and you should be able to understand the conversation if you're not fluent Welsh speakers. We're also asked to remind you to leave them behind as well, actually. They have no value, I'm told, on eBay, because that's where they bought them from. All right. So please do leave them on the seats after you finish the session. So that's the housekeeping sorted out for now. The purpose of the meeting is obviously to discuss the consultation document. And we have a number of officers here and elected members this evening on the panel, and I will ask them to introduce themselves to you before we do a short presentation, which Ian will take us through shortly. So can we ask perhaps the councillor in the end to introduce himself?
Yeah. I'm Councillor Barry Thomas, and I'm leader of council.
Councillor Arwell Jones, Portfolio Holder for Education.
Good evening, Ian Roberts, Head of School Service in Powys County Council.
Hello, I'm David Powell, I'm the Council Strategic Director of Resources.
Noswaith dda pawb, Marian Evans, Rheolwr Trawsnewid, Cyngor Sir Powys, School Transformation Manager.
Good evening, Gareth Jones, Senior Manager, Central Services and School Service.
Good evening everyone, Jane Thomas, and I'm the Professional Lead for Finance.
Okay, thank you. And we are fortunate this evening because we have got two councillors. We've got the Leader of the Council and the Portfolio Holder with us this evening. Just for information, just to let you know that the Cabinet members have agreed that the proposal should be put out to consultation, and they're here primarily to listen to the views of the public on this proposal. So they're very much here to listen to your views this evening. Their minds are open as to the eventual outcome of the process, and they will take into account the views expressed at all of the consultation meetings. And what they may say during the course of this meeting should be taken in this context and to avoid the need of constant repetition. Okay, I'm going to now ask Ian if you wouldn't mind actually taking us through a very short presentation.
Yeah, thank you, and on behalf of Powys County Council, thank you for coming this evening and giving up your time to contribute to this consultation. I need to emphasise that officers and members, we're here collectively to listen to your views. We will endeavour to answer any questions that you may pose us. If we're not able to answer those questions this evening, we will note them and we will respond to those questions in the formal consultation document. We're going to put up on the slides now, there are only 3 slides because it's important that I only take a few minutes, because it's important that the majority of the time this evening is spent with you asking the questions, making comments, etc. And as a panel, we will distribute those questions depending on what they are. The proposal is, as you can see there in front of you, to close Builth Wells High School and Llandrindod High School on the 31st of August 2017, and to establish a new dual-stream 11 to 18 secondary school that will operate across the current sites of the 2 schools from 1st of September 2017. That is the proposal. There is no other proposal that we are consulting on. That is the proposal, and that is the proposal that will be considered by Cabinet at the conclusion of the consultation period, which we'll refer to at the last slide. If we can have the next slide up, please. Okay. This is the case for change in Powys, and contained within this case for change in Powys, the factors or the bullet points on those slides are pertinent to what we are proposing in Mid-Powys. One of the factors and reasons why we are coming out is there has been a significant drop in pupil numbers or fall in pupil numbers across the secondary sector in Powys since 2010. I did state to staff earlier it was in the region of 700. We've double-checked that, and actually, since 2010, there are now, in January 2016, 1,500 less pupils in the secondary sector in Powys than there were 6 years ago. That is the size of 2 or more of our smaller secondary schools. In terms of Builth Wells and Llandrindod High School together, since 2010, there are now, in the 2 schools combined, 200 less pupils. That has a significant impact and puts financial pressures on the schools. Schools are finding it increasingly difficult to balance their budgets. They find it increasingly difficult to provide a menu of subject choice at Key Stage 4 and at A level. That makes it very difficult then for our learners to progress either into the world of work or onto further or higher education. And I'll touch a little bit more on the post-16 issues when I come to the 5th or 6th bullet point. Quality is an issue, but quality is related as well to the first 2 bullet points. There are comparisons that can be made like for like, and there are comparisons where you could say, well, that is not valid as a quality judgment because we're not comparing similar schools. But the fact is that Estyn have inspected the 2 schools contained in this proposal, and both schools had inspection reports which I'm sure we would all agree are not what they should have been, with both schools requiring special measures. Both schools have appropriate inspection action plans in place, and both schools are striving to make the improvements required by Estyn as rapidly as possible. But quality is a factor, because this is not about realising significant efficiencies or savings for Powys County Council. It's ensuring that our learners of the current generation and future generations have a good deal out of what Powys is offering and what the local community of the 2 schools can offer. We have too many empty places in our schools. That causes money to go to non-educational items, and in terms of both Llandrindod and Builth, there's about 17% surplus places in both of the schools. The conditions of the buildings are variable, and that, I said, was a case for change in Powys, and that will vary across the different schools, with some of our Powys schools in need of significant spend and others not so much. But the conditions of the buildings are a factor. They need to be fit for purpose. They need to be equipped for the digital learning future that we're in. And currently in Powys, we have a backlog of maintenance that we need to look at. Post-16 is a major factor. We've got small sixth forms, which means we have a significant reduction of funding from Welsh Government. So, for example, in this current financial year, 16-17, we had in the region of a £500,000 cut to the post-16 budget. That means that our schools on their own, the majority of our schools in Powys, and certainly pertinent to both Builth Wells and Llandrindod, are not able on their own to offer the learning and skills measure, which is 25 academic and 5 vocational subjects. The funding does not allow it. Currently, the funding in the 2 schools will fund 17.5 courses here in Builth and 12 courses, 13 courses in Llandrindod. We are losing a lot of our mid-Powys learners across the border, because they are able to access up to 30 subjects. Yes, we have a collaborative model where together the schools are working together in Mid and South Powys to ensure that we meet the measure. However, the evidence is that if learners are given a choice, they would prefer to study their subjects at one place rather than travel between sites for those subjects. We had an experience 2 years ago of one sixth form pupil in Powys having to go to 3 different schools to study her 3 A-levels. The amount of time was not conducive to quality time spent actually doing the subject rather than the travelling. In terms of Welsh medium issues, relatively small cohorts, and you will be aware that there is also a proposal in another area of Powys, in South Powys, for Brecon and Gwernafed, and included within that proposal is to remove Welsh medium education from Brecon High School and to centralise it here at the Builth Wells site of the proposed new school. With greater cohorts, with greater critical mass of learners, there is more subject choice. What we are aspiring in Powys is when children come into our primary schools at the age of 4, if parents choose Welsh medium education, they follow every single subject through the medium of Welsh. It is our aspiration that pupils are able to do that all the way through to post-16 A-level study, should that be their wish or the wish of their parents. Currently, what we have in Powys is a postcode lottery. We have a school that's able to offer that subject of choice all the way through, and then other schools have varying continuity due to when you get into Key Stage 4, the numbers reduce due to the fact of the range of subjects or lack of subject that may be available. So that provides the context and the case for change. And to conclude, I'd just like to take you on to my last slide. I think there was one last slide. Yeah, the next steps. The consultation will end on the 23rd of May. And then the officers will have 13 weeks prescribed by the School Organisation Code to produce a report to the Council's Cabinet. It's proposed that that report to the Council's Cabinet is considered on the 6th of September, early in the new academic year. At that given point in time, Council's Cabinet has a decision to make, whether to proceed with the proposal, to decide not to proceed with the proposal and retain the status quo, or to ask officers to prepare to consult on a different proposal. Without prejudice to any Cabinet decision, should the Cabinet agree to proceed with the proposal, what happens then is that the Council publishes a statutory notice for closure, and that is open for 28 days. It's important to notice the word objection there, because during the consultation period, if a view is given against the proposal, that is not an objection, that's a response to the consultation. It's only should the Council decide to go to statutory notice that objections will be considered. So if there are objections at that stage, anybody who's thought they've made an objection in the consultation period would need to do so again during the objection period. Following that 28-day period, a further report is taken to Cabinet, and they will then consider whether to close or not. Should they decide to, the first thing that happens then is that a shadow governing body is established. That governing body would be made up of the combination of the two current governing bodies of Builth Wells and Llandrindod High Schools, and there will be a defined number of parent representatives, teacher, non-teacher representatives, community, etc. That shadow governing body then would work with the local authority, and the first task that they would do would be to appoint a head teacher to the new school. Following that, a staffing structure is established, staff are appointed to the post, with the proposed closure date being the 31st of August 2017, with a brand new school opening on the 1st of September 2017. That gives you the context of why we are here this evening, and it also gives you the time scale and the next steps. I thank you for listening. Diolch yn fawr am gwrando. What I'll do now is hand the mic back over to Geralt, who will facilitate the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ian. Okay, so this is your opportunity now to ask any questions to the panel or to make any comments on the proposals. We do have 2 roving mics, so I guess if you want to ask a question, it'd be useful if you could put your hand in the air so I can see you. I've actually put my glasses on now, so I can see everything in 3D, so I'm hopefully not going to miss anybody. But if you want to ask a question, put your hand up and we'll get the roving mic to you. It would be useful if you could introduce yourself, please. That would be helpful. And obviously, if you're representing an organisation in particular, you might want to mention that organisation. Okay, so it's over to yourselves. Okay, thank you.
I can speak really loud, but you mentioned falling pupil numbers. Have you got any projections on future secondary school numbers that we could be made aware of from current cohorts coming through the education system now? So what we would be planning for in the future. We understand now from what you've said that there's been a decline. How big is that decline? Is it projected to continue, or is there going to be a change or a plateau? Because obviously you're going to have to plan for those future pupil numbers. And if those numbers suddenly increased or rose, that could lead us to a different perspective. I just wondered what the perspective was for the future. Thank you. Mark Hewlin-Taylor, by the way, I'm a parent at Builth Wells.
Thank you.
High School, sorry.
Yeah. There's 2 or 3 factors that will impact on that. Currently, our largest year group in the primary sector is 1,360. It varies between about 1,250 up to that number. And so that can project the numbers through the section for the next 7 to 8 years. We've also working with both the Powys County Council Planning Authority and the National Park Planning Authority for the south of the county around building developments within the local development plans, and also then working with health board associates around live birth data. Our projections are showing that the fall in numbers will stabilise over the next 2 or 3 years, but they're not expected to grow significantly over the next 20 years. In terms of population projections, the overall population of Powys is projected to increase, but the population projections for the 0 to 15, 0 to 25s are to remain stable, or actually in some years actually decrease slightly. So we're not expecting a significant increase in the school's population.
Okay, thank you. Who'd like to go next? Okay, lady in this row. Yeah, we've had one question from this side, and now we're having a question from this side. Okay, we're going to have a little bit of a competition, I think. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Corinne Pila. I'm a parent. My daughter goes to Builth High School. My question is about the quality of the education. As in the presentation earlier, it said that the progress in both schools is not as it should be. Is it not putting extra pressure on the education if this reorganization goes ahead? Because, you know, they're trying really hard to up the quality. And if this, you know, it's all uncertainty, it can't do any good, in my opinion.
Okay, really good question. I think Ian will probably take this one.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Undoubtedly, in any school reorganisation proposal, what it does do is create a period of uncertainty, and it can affect a taking the eye off the ball, focusing on the recovery programme. What we're talking about here is a long-term vision and a long-term strategy to improve. There are a number of factors which cause educational standards to be good, and there are factors which contribute to them to be needed development. And one factor I would use here is where the schools are currently of the size that they are, what you have is a number of pupils which does not enable the staff to have the quality time to actually do that development. You also, in schools of the size that we currently have a number of non-specialist teachers teaching at Key Stage 3 and sometimes at Key Stage 4. By combining the two schools, we will have in the region of a school of 1,000 plus pupils. What that does, it enables the management team of that school to be of a sufficient size to support the rest of the staff, to provide quality, continued professional development for the staff, to monitor lessons, to observe lessons, but most importantly, to develop the staff. And I think at all times, what we should be talking about is the staff having the time and the capacity to develop each other and work together. I would like to state that, yes, the schools are in special measures, but there are pockets of good, very good practice in both of the schools. I really do need to emphasise that. And what it's about is ensuring that that practice is consistent across the school and across the two sites. So actually, you're bringing what is good into one and sharing that. But you are right that the period of uncertainty does cause some anxiety.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we've got a question here, and then we'll come back to the lady with the green top on. So you can put your hand down, actually. I've spotted you.
Hello, my name's Jill Denman. I'm a parent with a child in a local primary school. I think my first question is, what's going to be any different then, really? Because you're talking about still using the same two sites. There's still going to be two schools running over those two sites. There's just going to be one head. And how that's actually going to be experienced by the children on the ground. You know, is it going to be travelling between sites? How are they actually going to experience the classrooms? You know, is there going to be more children in the schools? Is the class size going to be bigger? You know, I kind of feel like I need more information about the detail, really, and how it's actually going to look like.
Okay, thank you. Ian, are you going to take this one?
Yeah, I think taking your first part of your question, which is how is it going to be different? Well, what we're aspiring to is that the school will be performing well against similar schools in Wales. Okay? And how do you achieve that is the question that you're actually asking, that the learners actually have a different deal, or a better deal, to what they're having now. What is important is that the most important thing in any child's life is the quality of the teachers that they have in front of them. Okay? But the teachers need to have time to develop, and they need to have support. What you currently have across the two schools are small leadership teams. What this will enable to happen is the leadership team can be bigger across the two schools. Through that, similar to my previous answer, the teachers will be better supported to deliver the curriculum. They can share that good practice and they can learn from each other. It is not envisaged that children will be significantly mobile across two sites. Okay? So that it is not intended that the children, on the whole, move on a daily basis. There may be some movement required should you have subjects which are not viable on two sites, but are actually viable through one point of delivery. And I think that is where the children will be receiving a different entitlement to what they are now. In terms of class sizes, if I could hand to Gareth on that one to explain how the budget works for the schools.
Can I just ask that? I'm a bit confused by that then, because what you're saying is there's still going to be two schools running?
No.
Offering most of the subjects on both sides?
No. There will be one school, and they will be working to a common curriculum across the two sites. So they will have the same syllabus at Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4. They will have the same policy development across the two schools. Inclusion strategies will be similar. Attendance policies will be similar. and there will be absolute consistency. Now, where numbers actually ensure that a subject is affordable and sustainable, then there will be delivery of those subjects, yes, on the 2 sites of the school. But what you will have is one, for example, you will have 1 head of maths rather than 2 heads of maths. There will be consistency delivery of quality teaching across all subjects, across all of the sites.
Yeah, just to add on from that in terms of class sizes, especially at Key Stage 5, as Ian mentioned in his presentation, the number of subjects offered at both sites are quite low at post-16 provision, and it would be the authorities' hope that we'd actually expand the number of subjects available to the learners at post-16. That may result in the individual class sizes being slightly larger than they are now, but they'll actually give them a broader choice of options, allow them to have that wider choice, some subjects that aren't offered across the 2 sites.
Okay, thank you. The lady in the green top, thank you.
Can you just, regarding quality, and actually it's very similar to the previous question, when you open the new school in September 17, you will have an English medium school site in Llandrindod, an English medium site in Builth, a Welsh medium site in Builth, and a 6th form site in Builth, and a 6th form site in Llandrindod. So you'll still be covering the 2 sites with exactly the same thing, but with a different teaching structure. Is that right?
I think you meant, sorry, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you, in the question that you asked, you mentioned an English medium site in Llandrindod, an English medium site in Builth, and a Welsh medium site in Builth. It'll actually, Welsh medium and English medium will be delivered on the same site in Builth.
But it will still mean you have English medium in Builth and English medium in Llandrindod. So
that's correct.
How does that actually impact on the current learners and give them the benefits? If quality is the important factor, how will that benefit the current learners? Because those teachers still have to have the same number of teachers across the 2 sites.
Yeah, you're right in there will need to be teachers of the subjects across the both sites. What we're looking at, if you look at how education is best improved, it's through the leadership of those departments, it's through consistency of approach, and what you will have is an affordable and sustainable leadership structure that will enable the leaders to develop the teachers and to ensure the quality that is required. I understand what you're saying, but it is a role of that leadership team to ensure consistency and sharing of good practice from the good practice that already exists across the 2 sites. In terms of post-16, there were, what we're going to have to be doing is working with the governing body of the new school on this one, is where it is appropriate to deliver the specific subjects for post-16. What we're not we don't have in the proposal stating that post-16 will be delivered at the Builth site or post-16 will be delivered at the Llandrindod site. That will be very much the decision of the governing body and the senior leadership team of the school.
Okay, thank you. We've got 2 people wanting questions here. There's a gentleman that had his hand up earlier, so gentleman at the back, and then you're next.
Gavin Blakeway, parent. 2 quick questions. One was you raised the issue of the standard of the buildings. Are there any building issues at Llandrindod and Builth, bearing in mind this is a relatively new school that we're in at the moment? And secondly, with regard to consistency, the improvements to consistency, well, surely the local education authority should be working earlier with regard to making sure with the same level of consistency between all schools.
Okay, thank you for that. I think this might be one for Gareth.
Yeah, if I deal with the building issues to start with, the schools have been categorised following inspections undertaken by Welsh Government appointed surveyors. Builth's overall condition assessment was a condition B. and then assessments goes from A to D, with A being in effect a brand new school, and a D being a school that's passed its sell-by date. Brecon High School, for example, is the only secondary school in Powys that was assessed as a condition D. In terms of Llandrindod, when the assessment was undertaken in 2008-2009, so they are quite old assessments, Llandrindod was given an overall assessment of condition C. Since then, we've actually knocked one of the blocks there, which was known as the Terrapin block, down. That's one of the poorer blocks. So there's a revised assessment that needs to be undertaken, which was approved by Cabinet at a meeting yesterday. But our assessment is still the condition C. C means that there's significant works that would be required to bring it up to a 21st century school standard.
But B means?
B means there are some issues, which once, as we all know, with any housing development, etc., once a building gets to a certain age, there's always going to be some repairs and maintenance and improvements work required. But in terms of overall standard, the County Council's aspirations to bring up all its school buildings up to a condition of A or B. So an overall assessment of B means that it's good.
Okay, thank you. Gentleman here at the front wants to ask a question. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I can answer that one. Yeah, thank you for the question. The role of the local authority is to monitor, challenge and support schools, not to deliver improvement. As a region now, school improvement services within the region are the role of the South West and Mid Wales region, which is Eru, and the region, through its challenge advisor and school improvement team, works very closely with the school to deliver the national model for school improvement. The role of the local education authority in that is to ensure that schools have appropriate school development plans in place for improvement, and to challenge the school where that improvement is not happening. It is not the role of the local authority to micromanage schools and to deliver that improvement. That is the role of the school, the governing body and the leadership team, but it is the role of the local authority to challenge and support and to guide that improvement.
Okay, gentleman at the front.
My question goes back to what was being said before about the leadership being the key and providing better leadership and help to the teachers. How, now, when you've got two heads of maths, one on each school, how is one head of maths going to provide better support and better guidance to the teachers over two sites? It just doesn't stack up.
What you need to look at is how much time the budget affords that head of maths to be released from their teaching commitment. And currently, because of the pupil numbers and the amount of budget and the time available, it is probable that the heads of maths across the two schools, or heads of any subject, rather than just pinpointing maths, hasn't got the capacity of time in order to do that leadership role. What this structure will enable the school to do is to release that head of maths to lead the department rather than manage the department. So that head of maths will have extra time built into the timetable to ensure that they can do the quality assurance around the teaching and to support the staff within the working day.
Yeah, I understand that. But currently, usually the head of any subject is the best teacher, and it's the teacher that you want for your children when they come to their GCSEs or A-levels. So if they're no longer teaching, it can only have an immediate impact on the quality of the education of the children in the school at the moment.
Thank you for the question. I think there lies an issue. The head of maths doesn't necessarily need to be the best teacher, because within any department, all of those teachers should be of the highest quality. And the difficulty that we have within the schools in Powys is that they are not resilient. And by that, what I mean is, if a head of subject is off for a period of time, it is extremely difficult for the schools to replace them because of the rural area in which we live. So the role of the head of any subject is to ensure that all of the teachers within his or her department are all good and all work to an equivalent standard. And what we have is significant amount of variation because our leaders in Powys, our subject leaders, have not got enough time to lead their department. But I take your point, I'm not debating your point, I'm just trying to give an explanation behind our proposal. So thank you for your question.
Okay, I believe we've got a question at the back. Yep.
Adam Johnson, a lot of everything you've said so far seems to relate back to finances, frankly, at the end. And looking through the consultation document that was available online, there seems to be current estimated backlog maintenance costs in excess of £5.3 million across both sites for the single school as it will become, should everything go to the assumed plan. What is the expected time frame for that single school over 2 sites to be running? Do we have a forecast time frame, or is this an intermediary measure until something more permanent can get worked up and government funding or whatever is provided to the council to allow them to do so?
Okay, I think Marianne will take this one.
Thank you for the question. The proposal as it stands for 1 school on 2 sites would see quite a challenging timescale. So without prejudice to any decisions that Cabinet may have to make, if the proposal did go forward, then we would see Cabinet considering the outcome of the consultation in September. Should they then wish to publish a statutory notice, then we would see that coming back to Cabinet around November, December time. If Cabinet at that stage implemented, we would then go straight away into establishing a shadow governing body, recruiting a head teacher, establishing the staffing structure. A challenging timescale, I have to say. 2 terms to do that is challenging, but it has been done before. We would then see the school operating from September 2017. With regard to whether it is what you may call an interim stage to any further redevelopment, you'll note from the consultation document that there are potentially plans for a single school on a single site, but we have lots of work to do around that one in terms of feasibility, in terms of availability of capital funding, etc. So at this stage, the proposal is 1 school on 2 sites.
So what you're suggesting from that, because it took a long time to get there, but what we're saying is ultimately this is what, subject to everything going through, will be the foreseeable future for the children's education out of Builth Wells and out of Llandrindod.
Yes. Yes, for the foreseeable future, as I said, without prejudice to everything. But obviously, lots of work also needs to happen in terms of that wider plan as well.
Which I think is accepted, but the concern is, and I go back to it, and the second bullet on the slides that we saw earlier was financial pressures. Now, it's quite clear that there is financial pressures on the council. We're all aware of those. There is also financial pressures on the education system. Doing what you are proposing to do may ease some of those financial pressures, but there is still a significant deficit of maintenance required to date, not even looking forward to, say, future maintenance that may be required. And I would just like to understand the timeframes to bring the schools up to a standard of fabric which makes it presentable for the kids, because there are 2 aspects to children's learning. The first is the quality of the teaching, and the second is the environment in which they're learning.
Okay, I think it's Gareth.
Yeah, in terms of the major improvement plan for the authority, the school services currently operate with a capital budget of £1 million per annum. In addition to that, there's 21st Century Schools investment, which is partly funded by Welsh Government. That is increasing, the major improvement budget is increasing for 2017-18 and the next 2 subsequent years after that to £2 million per annum. That's not a significant sum when you spread that money over the 100 schools that the authority has got. As I said earlier, the authority's aspirations to bring all its buildings up to condition A or B. The investment under the Major Improvements Plan is done through a scoring matrix, and we try to prioritise those major improvements that require action as a priority against assessed criteria. I'm not in a position to give you a date of when we're going to bring all the schools up to a condition A or B, because that is going to be subject to available capital funding from Welsh Government and the authority as joint partners.
Okay, thank you. I think this gentleman here would like to ask a question.
Hello. Alan Davis, a daughter in Year 8 Welsh Medium, so I have a question on the Welsh Medium side. Considering the consultation regarding Brecon, Glenelg and the movement of Welsh Medium education here to Builth, really the question is about what are the plans for strengthening and developing the Welsh Medium education on this site?
Thank you, Aled. Okay, the plans for strengthening Welsh Medium on this site. Now, we heard Ian mention earlier that across South Powys, South and Mid Powys, we have the problem in terms of delivering Welsh Medium education to a sufficient range and standard that we would expect as a county council. We have two small streams, smallish streams, I might say. Brecon High School is the smaller of the two streams. And the council's view is that we need to consolidate. We need to consolidate those two streams into one larger stream here at Builth Wells in order to provide the full range of provision, to provide the continuity throughout all the key stages, throughout a pupil's time in school. We see that consolidating here in Builth, on the site in Builth, would provide more subjects, more pupils, equals more subjects available, more opportunities for those learners then to strengthen their Welsh medium skills and have more opportunities due to the fact that they are in a larger cohort. Okay, thank you.
Just a follow-on from that.
Yeah.
Just to ask, with that, with the increased numbers, we're also looking at the sixth form, and so that does extend on the sixth form as well?
Absolutely. One of the issues that we have here and elsewhere is that we don't have enough Welsh medium subjects available at post-16. You'll see in the document the number of subjects available at each key stage in both Brecon High School and Builth Wells High School, and you'll see that there is some post-16 provision provided here. What we'd really like to do is to see that extend. We'd like to see opportunities across all the key stages extend, and I think what we have here now is an excellent opportunity to really provide that range of provision that Welsh medium learners are entitled to. So it would extend not only to Key Stage 3, Key Stage 4, but also to post-16.
But just considering what you said, with the plans that are put in place, I expect not just the aspiration, but I expect Powys to be driving it.
I would expect that as well. And, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Gentleman at the front, so if you'd just like to turn around, spin around, and here we go.
Has it been considered to do the same as you have in a school Grove Woodland, federate the senior school with the junior school and run an all-through school? Because one of the biggest problems you have with education is that there is poor preparation in our junior schools for the children when they are arriving at high school. The standard of the children coming out of junior school is quite frankly quite poor, and the high school are in many cases having to start again learning the basics which they should already know. So if you federated those two and left it as a Builth thing, would that not be an alternative?
I think the head teacher of the primary school nearly fell off his chair at that last comment, but I think where we are on this one is that we've got to understand that the situation in Brohydgen is significantly different in terms of the language, the demographic of the area. What we had in Brohydgen, in the town of Machynlleth, was one primary school and one secondary school. But up within the catchment area, we had 3 Welsh medium primary schools. So in 2014, can't remember, what we did, we closed both the primary school and the secondary school in the town of Machynlleth and created one all-through school. You were able to do that because they were both community schools. In Glantwym, Llanbrynmair and Carno, we federated those 3 schools because they were all Welsh medium schools, and we were able to do so because they were community schools. What you have here is a different model. What you have in the area of Builth Wells and Llandrindod Wells is not only a mix of dual stream schools, English medium schools, but you've also got the additional factor of Church in Wales schools. And the process of you cannot federate a Church in Wales school with a community school. The regulations do not allow us to do so. But also, when you've got an all-through school which only involves the primary of the town and the secondary of the town, that creates a complicated transition point for the feeder schools in at Year 7. So, for example, pupils from Llanrwedd, Irfon Valley, Franksbridge, Newbridge, all of those, they would be coming in at an Year 7, which would create curriculum planning for those schools. Quite a problem. It was considered at an early stage, but it was discounted at an early stage also because of the factors to which I allude.
Okay. And just to add to that as well, I think with 3 to 19 schools, as they call them, all-through schools, there are significant educational benefits. But what we were tasked with doing was looking for a solution to particular secondary school situations and problems. And we considered whether an all-through school would actually address some of those issues. For example, would an all-through school here in Builth or anywhere else actually help improve the range of provision available at post-16? Would it actually help improve Welsh medium opportunities, etc.? So there's a significant set of problems that face the secondary sector. It may be possible that 3 to 19 schools could address some of them, but not all of them. Hence, the proposal tonight only focuses on secondary.
Okay, any other questions? Yeah, lady at the back. Darren, thank you.
Hi, Charlotte Clare, parent of a child in the high school in Builth. I was just wondering if you could clarify what will happen about the staff in the schools. If it becomes one school, will the staff then have to all reapply for their jobs? What happens there? If it's in, they're both in special measures, what happens when it becomes a new school? Does the special measures get wiped clean? The new school then has the same teachers, or what happens? How do we know the new school is any different from the old school? Because it won't any longer be monitored by us because it won't be special measures.
Okay, good question.
Yeah, it is a very good question. I'll answer it in two parts, if I may. I'll talk about the staffing first. The staffing regulations of Welsh Government allow the shadow governing body of the new school to ring-fence the posts to staff in the schools that are proposed to close. Now, the first thing that the shadow governing body would do would be to appoint a head teacher, and the head teacher then, with the shadow governing body, with the advice and support of the local authority, would devise a staffing structure and determine how many posts that school needs and at what level in terms of senior leadership, middle leadership and main scale classroom teachers. It is our aspiration at all times to avoid a situation of compulsory redundancies. As a Powys Local Education Authority, where possible, we would to safeguard the jobs of our staff. In terms of special measures, now that is an interesting one. You are correct that should the two schools close, then obviously the new school wouldn't be in special measures. However, Estyn would monitor the performance of that new school to ensure that the education on each of the sites is addressing a combination of the recommendations of the Estyn inspection reports. So it wouldn't be in special measures, but Estyn would monitor the performance for a period of time. The way that Estyn currently work is that any school is only 20 days from inspection. And they are bringing out a new inspection framework in September, and that new inspection framework will be a 7-year cycle. And the only thing that they say in that is that every school has to be inspected once. Actually, a school could be inspected 2, 3, 4, or even 5 times during that 7 years. But when a new school is created, currently Estyn do not carry out a full inspection of that new school until there are 2 sets of data. So we would be expecting, should the new school open in September 20, it's not up there, I'm looking at myself, which is scary. In September 2017, you'd have to have the summer 2018 and the summer 2019 data available. So under the current arrangements, the earliest the new school would have a full inspection would be the autumn term 2019, but up to that period, they would continue to monitor the performance of the school to ensure that the education provision has improved. I'm sorry it's a bit of a long-winded answer, but I just wanted to take you through the whole of the Estyn approach.
Okay, thank you for that question. There's one at the back, Darren, as well, please.
Good evening, Guy Walker, Have Children's School. You talked about the shadow governing body. How is that going to be formulated? Is that drawn from the existing governing bodies of both schools, or is it brand new?
What you have an instrument of governance which determine how many categories of different governor you have, and the 2 governing bodies would continue to function until such a point the current school's closed. But the shadow governing body would be made up of a combination of the 2 current governing bodies. If there was a situation where there were vacancies because the places were not filled, then that would go out to the normal recruitment of governing bodies. What we would say is whoever sits on that shadow governing body will need to understand the significant workload that will be involved in setting up this new school. Currently, the regulation states that full governing bodies only meet once a term. Most schools meet far more than that, but this is a significant amount of work for that governing body, but it is a combination of the 2 governing bodies in the first instance, unless you can't fill those places.
So, in effect, the shadow governing body would have to be months in advance formulated before the closure of the schools to be able to implement.
Yeah, you're right. As soon should Cabinet decide to proceed with the closure, immediately after that, the first thing that would be done is that shadow governing body would be established, which would be 7-8 months ahead of the proposed opening date.
And just to clarify, that shadow governing body would be in place until about 6 weeks after the formal opening of the new school. The new school is scheduled to open in September 17. That shadow governing body would be in place until the new governing body for the new school, which can't be appointed until the formal opening of the school is in place, and that would take around about 6 weeks.
Okay. Any more questions? Yes, lady at the front. Yeah, hang on. We'll bring the mic. Bear with us. Thank you.
Two questions. One, about the shadow governing body, if it is so much work, wouldn't it be better to recruit some additional members to help with the workload to stop governors from walking away because they can't cope?
Yeah.
That's one. And also, are the existing head teachers allowed to apply for the new school head teachers?
I'll do the second question first. It is a decision of the shadow governing body whether to ring fence the head teacher post to anybody who's in a permanent position of head teacher at this given point in time. It's the governing board, that is in the regulation. The shadow governing body can decide to do so or not to do so. It would be their decision.
And in terms of the membership of the governing body, the size of the governing body is set by statute under the governing regulations. There may be a little bit of scope, but I can give you assurance that they will then be supported by members of the staff within County Council from HR, legal, finance, and we would normally expect that the clerk to the shadow governing body would be provided by the County Council, so there's somebody with continuity on that side.
Okay, thank you. We have another question from the side. Yep.
Hi, I'm just Leah Bailey. I've got a child in high school. I was just wondering how if this goes ahead, the closure, and how you foresee it's going to affect children's education in terms of the transition. You said this is, is a time of uncertainty. So how do you foresee that it's going to affect their education? My daughter will be studying for GCSEs at that time if it happens.
One of the issues here is what we're not proposing to do is to break something down and then create something new. In that, your daughter, was it you said? Sorry, yeah, your daughter will still have the same consistency of teaching staff through, up to and including that GCSE period. We wouldn't be seeing a significant change during that period of time. What you'll have when a new school is created is a step change and a transition period over time. There is nothing more important than the education and the well-being of the children. The staff here and the staff in Llandrindod know the children well, and each of those pupils will have different needs. And the transition into the new school will be smooth because of the consistency of teaching staff to that point. But you're right, you will have a concern because it is a crucial period of your child's development. Sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
And how can you ensure that that's going to be a smooth?
Well, the local authority would work with the staff of the schools to monitor the progress, to ensure that policies are in place, to ensure that the children's needs are met. If they've got additional learning needs, the school has a duty to provide those additional learning needs. It does not stop on the 31st of August 2017 and start as something different. There will be that continuity. If a child's additional learning needs, the additional learning needs plans would transfer with them, for example. So you've got that continuity. The role of ensuring that transition is smooth is actually the role for the school and for the school staff, because they are the ones who know the children best, not officers or members sat here. The staff know the pupils.
Okay, thank you for that question. And I believe we have one at the back. We've got two at the back, I think.
3 questions. Sarah Wheeler, I have a child in Builth High School. I do have 3 questions actually, but the first 2 are pre-16. Can you guarantee that the children won't be moved or transported anyway to bigger size classes from each of the schools, because I got the impression that one of the officers talked about classroom numbers, and if they weren't big enough, then the pupils will be shipped to the other school to maintain that increased class level. And the second question is, throughout the consultation documents, it talks about post-16 model, but I don't know what that model looks like. What does it look like as far as the one school?
Okay, do you know, right, was that 2 or was that the 3?
I'll ask the third one afterwards.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, I think this one could be taken by Marianne and Gareth, I think.
Yeah.
Jointly.
Jointly, it's a joint response for you.
If I respond to the first part of your question in relation to the pre-16 provision, there's no plans to move children from their current site. Obviously, it's your right as a parent to choose which school you wish your child to attend, and we'd apply that to which site you want your child to attend if the proposal goes forward. And one of the issues we had raised when we met with the children last Friday was, if I live closer to Llandrindod, will I have to go to Llandrindod in the future? And the answer is no. No, if your child is in the Builth site at the moment, they will continue to have their education on the Builth site. There is the issue around the pre-16, especially at Key Stage 4, and again, this will be a decision for the governing body to decide. There may be some learning opportunities to actually bring children together to actually have individual sessions some days. If you take the arrangements we've got within Newtown and the John Beddoes site at Prestine, I know that they've had some joint working with children from Newtown who have gone to John Beddoes to do some working at Key Stage 4 and vice versa. And that allows them then to have learning opportunities across a wider cohort of children, but that will be done and planned and delivered by the school.
Okay, in terms of the post-16 question, just to set some context, in 2009, the Welsh Government passed a new legislation that puts a duty on local authorities to provide a specific minimum number of subjects for post-16 learners. The requirement is that every learner has a choice of 30 subjects, 25 academic, 5 vocational. And it is an extremely challenging measure to meet in a rural area such as Powys. And to be honest, I think the authority has really done its best over the last few years to make sure that that choice is available to all learners. What we have currently is the South Powys Post-16 Partnership. I'm not sure you're nodding your head, so you're aware of it, where learners actually can choose from a joint timetable, including all the high schools, and then we facilitate the transport. Then they can move to pick up subject in another school, and it has been successful. And to be honest, I'm really proud of the model that it has opened the door for a number of pupils and provided additional opportunities. But what we are facing, unfortunately, is reducing funding from Welsh Government. Welsh Government fund post-16 directly, and we've had the worst drop in funding of any council in Powys. And this year, that is actually, we're down £500,000 in terms of the funding available for post-16 next September. When you equate that into the number of subjects that can be offered for that money, what that means is that subject provision choice then deteriorates as well. So the time has come to actually look at the model and to see whether that is sustainable. What we'd like to see, what we'd aspire to see, is post-16 being delivered in centres that can actually provide that range of provision from one location rather than pupils having to travel all over the place. With this proposal for one school on 2 sites, it will be the decision of the shadow governing body or the governing body when it's established how it wishes to deliver post-16 provision. Now, what we're saying is we would encourage the governing body to think about delivering from one location if that was was possible. It's not in our power to force that to happen, so we would be encouraging them to think about that. What that would provide would be a sixth form of around just under 200 pupils, which is one of the largest then in Powys, and could actually then provide a range of provision, the whole range of subjects from one location. So that's something, I think that's an opportunity that this model can actually, push forward, and a fantastic opportunity for learners.
Okay, thank you, Marianne, for a very detailed and comprehensive answer to that question. Right, I can't wait for this third question. Is this the killer question now, is it?
Just talking about the hard-working friends of the schools. So, obviously, there's been a lot of fundraising for Builth High School. When it's one school, what happens to the friends of school and the funds that have been raised already? Okay.
Is the Friends of the School a separate body to the school with a separate account, etc.? It would be the decision of the Friends of the School how to use that. The Friends of the School could decide to use that the budget or the finance that they have ahead of any school closure. They could decide to work, if it goes through, with the Friends of the School in Llandrindod to pool it for the new school, but that would be absolutely a decision for the friends of the school, because actually that is not under the control of the local authority through a delegated budget, and if it's separate, it's not governed by the school either.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And in fact, I can relate to that because I'm chair of governors of a primary school up in West Lancashire, but I'm also chair of Friends of the School. We do actually have a dissolution clause at the end, actually, of our constitution, which gives advice to the Friends of the School what should happen if they do decide to change directions. Right, gentleman at the front, I think, Darren, perhaps? Sorry, was the gentleman at the back? Have I forgotten you there? The gentleman who asked one? Yeah. So you have another question later, do you? Okay, thanks.
Not a question, but a reassurance that the charitable funds of the individual schools, such as the Pritchard Trust, which applies in Builth, or indeed the Llandrindod Intermediate and Technical Education Fund, which applies in Llandrindod, those funds would continue to be administered for the benefit of the pupils in the geographical area. So there is no likelihood of those funds disappearing or being applied elsewhere.
Yeah, because it's probably in the objects of your constitution. It's in the objects, that's fine.
I speak as a member of the governing body, obviously, and the county council of the Clancy. There is a said constitution. We have a number of trustees who are appointed from the government and other members of the community, and that situation will continue.
Okay, thank you for that comment. We're going to go back to the gentleman who I inadvertently forgot. And then we'll come back to this side.
Thanks, and don't worry. I'm just wanting to go back to the timeline for potential implementation. Concern that I have with that is you're talking about a new school opening on the 1st of September. And obviously there will be, part of what was discussed earlier on was a requirement for the new head teacher and the governing body to then put in place a curriculum that could be followed by the school. Just by the nature of the timing of that, with it being right at the start of the academic year, will that not impact the choice, the subject choices potentially, of the children that have had to make these most likely in advance of that time?
Sorry, we're looking at each other here. I think you start with, don't you? You have to start with the premise that the pupils will be at the end of year 10 or the end of year 12 at that period of time are able to continue to follow their GCSEs in the subjects they're following. It would be I'm trying to use a not too strong a word, extremely wrong, I suppose, if those children were not able to do so. That's a starting point in any timetabling that you have. We would need...
sorry, just on that point though, so what you're saying is pupils who are currently being educated in Builth or in Llandrindod, irrespective of the subject, would be expected to continue those topics in their current learning environment for the duration of that period?
That would be the ideal solution, yes, and we would aspire to work, and we would work, not aspire to, we would work with the senior leadership team of the school and the governing body to ensure that that happens. You cannot have disruption to a learner's experience midway through GCSE or post-16 study course.
You've also got to remember it's not as though just the roles and responsibility of the shadow governing body. You've also got the two existing governing bodies that will be in place to support that new shadow governing body up until the 31st of August 2017. So in effect there'll be three groups of people working together, although the shadow governing body will be formed from members of the two existing governing bodies.
Overseeing the management of it, I've got less concerns with. I think it's the potential outcome, because all of this is happening towards the start of a new, a new academic year, and as such, it's ensuring that there is minimal impact to the children who could be quite heavily affected by the changes that you're discussing.
You've also got to consider that there's a trend in our secondary schools at the moment, especially for the examination year groups. I met with a head teacher in one of our secondary schools this afternoon. Their new academic year in terms of when they actually change the curriculum delivery, so when does year 7 become year 8, year 8 becomes year 9, they actually start just following the May half term. So when the year 11 and year 13 pupils do their external exams, they take that opportunity to actually start delivering those courses. Part of the reason for that is for those learners that go from year 9 to year 10 can then have that first 6 weeks of the second half of the summer term to commence the GCSE courses. If that doesn't suit them, they can then have the opportunity to change those courses. So it's going to be a partnership between the two existing schools, the two governing bodies, and the new shadowing governing body, and obviously the new school when that's formed.
So from what you've just said, I'm going to assume that any new syllabus or curriculum would not be started until the summer of 2018, because that way the children will not be impacted by any decisions that are made to change some of the subjects, etc., over that period of time.
Yeah, regardless of when, the GCSE syllabus, our WJC, Welsh Joint Education Committee syllabus anyway, so they're constant. So the syllabus is a set syllabus for those 2 years. So whatever the situation, the schools will need to be equipped and ready to continue that study. And actually, when you're looking at what the proposal is to minimise or even have no travel across at Key Stage 4, it should not impact on that continuity from year 10 to year 11 in any shape or form.
Okay, gentleman at the front.
I'm just picking up on a couple of comments that Ian made, and I'm a little bit confused. One of the lady over there, I've got 2 children that will be going through the GCSE stage while this transition is happening, and you told the lady there that the same teachers will be helping these children through this transition stage, yet you told the lady at the back that the teachers are going to have to apply for their jobs. So the two don't marry up. If they're having to apply for their job, the teachers will be worried about their own job. So they will not be providing the same level of support to the children that they normally would.
Yeah, I didn't actually say they'd be applying for the job. What I did say was that it was the decision of the governing body whether to ring-fence those jobs to the staff, and there is a difference there between ring-fencing and applying. We would encourage the shadow governing body to ring-fence the posts to the current staff in both schools.
Okay, there's a gentleman here first, and then the lady in the green. you can ask your question next.
Good evening. My name is Gary. I'm a local councillor from Llandrindod and Wells, and not only am I from Llandrindod, but I've had the fortune of attending both at Llandrindod High School and this high school for my latter years of secondary education. Can I just make a couple of points to start, if I can, please? The community of Builth Wells and the surrounding area have only been given 6 days from the start of the consultation process to book a ticket for tonight and to take part. I personally think that's unreasonable, considering that the period of consultation lasts for 47 days. I think you didn't have to be so hasty. You could have prolonged it and held it later towards the end of the consultation event. Mr Johnson at the back did mention the outstanding maintenance costs of both schools. The council, in its capital programme, has set aside a figure, or will set aside a figure, of £17.6 billion towards the proposals that you have. That money exceeds far greater than the maintenance cost of the two schools. So it's my assumption that money is eventually going to be used for a new school on one site. Maybe you can confirm or deny that. Mrs Goff, I hope you wouldn't mind me calling her Mrs Goff, mentioned post-16 education. I attended the cabinet meeting where you made the recommendation, and anybody that's seen the webcast will agree with me that the part of the end where you actually made the recommendation was nothing short of a disgrace, because you were flagging over exactly what was going to happen. But just in terms of post-16 education, it was my understanding as a locally elected representative that there would be post-16 education delivered on both sites. I wonder if that's correct or not. The yes and no answer would be suitable, and that's a direct question to Councillor Jones.
Sorry? Yeah, thank you for that. I guess Ian has just mentioned previously that visits of post-16 education will be on both sides, but it's up to the new sort of governing body of that school, should they so wish, to amalgamate the two sites, two post-16 sites. It's a decision for them to take at a later date.
One final point, if I can. I understand you had a bit of help with the answer, but in terms of Welsh medium education and the figures in the documentation say there are 129 pupils currently in Builth Wells are receiving Welsh medium education. Should the proposals go ahead in South Powys with the Brecon campus and all children come from the Brecon area to receive Welsh medium education here, can you just tell me what would be the final number of pupils receiving Welsh medium education in this school? And what would be the furthest travelling distance time for a single pupil?
Okay, thank you. Is this one for Gareth?
The total number, Councillor Price, is there's currently 30 children in Brecon. You add that to the 129, that gives you 159 pupils. Some of those pupils in Brecon may live in the Sennybridge area. If the two proposals go jointly forward, Sennybridge will then be closer to Ysgol-Gavin in Ysgol-Lavera, which is a Category 1A Welsh medium, fully Welsh medium school. And some parents may choose that that's where they wish their child to attend. The furthest distance would be potentially from the Lake D area of the Llandrindod catchment area, because obviously the Builth Wells site already serves Welsh medium education for the Llandrindod catchment, as well as any learners that wish to attend Welsh medium provision from the John Beddoes catchment, although and the Gwynafod catchment is. The County Council's aspirations under the Learning Welsh travel measure and its transport policy is that no learner should not normally be required to travel for more than an hour, although there are some exceptions to that, because if you're living in the upper Ellen Valley area of the Llandrindod catchment and you wish to have Welsh medium provision, that's going to be a significant journey. So, as I said, the normal expected travel time would be not normally more than an hour.
Okay, thank you. And the lady in the green top, just on the end, thank you.
My questions are around budgets. Could you tell me, there are a few questions, but I need to answer one first. Could you tell me what the precise saving is of this proposal?
The estimated savings, and the estimated saving in terms of funding to the revised school is 133,000 per annum.
And is that enough to keep the status quo for two schools if they are both in financial situations, and they are? I note in the proposal it says about Llandrindod and their forecast, their budget forecast being in deficit in future years, but it doesn't actually say about Builth. So we haven't got anything to know whether Builth is in the same situation. And if that's the case, if finance is a problem, how is 133,000 going to actually impact on that? Is it enough to make a difference between the two schools?
Okay, I think I can pick up on this one. In terms of the budget position of Llandrindod and Builth, they are in different budget positions at the moment. Builth are currently got a small surplus in their latest plan, a small deficit, sorry, but that is projected to go back into a surplus position over the next few years. So I think that's why it wasn't picked up in those proposals, because it wasn't in a position where it was moving into a deficit, as is the position with Llandrindod at the moment. In terms of the funding for the new school, the formula that we run for all schools in Powys provides each school under a set formula a certain amount of money. And in terms of the proposals that we've got here, that formula has been run in terms of that new school. There are a couple of additional elements within that allocation, specifically to it being a split site, and some of those allocations will need to go through the formal process of building those into the formula. So that will generate additional funding to support that split site model. But that school then will be funded the same as all other schools across the authority on that formula. It is then down to the governing body of the school to actually set and operate the expenditure of that school within that funding envelope.
Can I also say that the figure for Llandrindod is quoted in the consultation document, as it states, was the position of the school's budget at that time. Officers from the authority have been working closely with the leadership and the governing body of the school to actually improve that scenario. I haven't got the latest figures, but I understand it's significantly improved to what the figures quoted in the consultation document.
My other question would then be to go to critical mass. You said about critical mass, but for pre-16 education, if you're still running two sites with the same learners in Builth and the same learners in Llandrindod, how does that actually impact on critical mass as of the 1st of September 2017? Because at the end of the day, they're still going to be in the same schools and the same learning through the same teachers. I can't quite understand how you say that that's going to be. I get the understanding of the leadership development, but not on the critical mass. You're still going to have smaller classes in one part and other classes in another area.
In terms of the pre-16, you're correct. If there's no planned movement of children between the two sites, then the class structure that's currently in place would be expected to be in place in the future. There would be some efficiencies within the Welsh medium provision, because if the proposal around the Brecon Welsh stream goes forward, that'll actually increase the number of learners in the Welsh stream, would increase the funding through both the pupil number increase in funding for the school, but also through there's a language uplift for a dual stream school, and that may actually support the schools actually deliver a wider curriculum for Welsh learners. And obviously post-16, if the post-16 curriculum was delivered from one site, there would be significant efficiencies because there's small cohorts at the moment.
So going back to critical mass, can I ask whether the governing body for Llandrindod's proposal of putting the English stream in Llandrindod, the Builth stream, the Welsh stream in Builth, and the sixth form in Builth has been considered and is still on the cards, or is that something that is not being talked about at all?
We are consulting on what we stated at the beginning of the evening. Dual stream, school on two sites with Welsh medium being delivered on the Builth site, and the current proposal is for English medium to be continued to be delivered on the Builth site also. If Llandrindod governors, or Builth governors, or parents, or community, or anybody put in an additional proposal, that will be contained within the Cabinet report and discussed and decided upon by Cabinet. But the proposal is, as I've just stated and as put up on the screen earlier, we will not be changing that proposal during the consultation period.
Can I just add to that? Page 75 of the consultation document looks at the projected travel costs around an option of having a Welsh medium school in Builth and an English medium school in Llandrindod, and that shows that would actually cost an extra £267,000 in travel, which would actually make that solution a more expensive solution to deliver than the current model.
Okay. Lady at the front again. Hang on, there's a mic coming at you.
I've got a couple more questions. Do you have any idea how the staff of the two schools feel about your proposal?
One of the statutory bodies that we've got to consult with are the staffing body. Prior to this meeting tonight, we've had a meeting with staff. They've made their expressed their concerns to us. In some ways, some of the concerns, they're around their individual jobs as well. I'm not sure I should be in a position to actually say what the outcomes are.
We haven't actually met with the staff of Llandrindod. Yes, that is due to take place tomorrow afternoon. But certainly with the consultation report, their views will be taken on board. And I would say, I would echo what Gareth has said. The issues that were raised are very similar to the issues that have been raised in this public meeting as well.
Now, there's been a lot of talk about the post-16 provision. What about the pre-16 provision? Because I found our GCSE selection for my daughter, who's in year 9, quite poor.
Budget.
The offer at Key Stage 4 is developed by the school. Obviously, both schools are in a position where there is a very tight financial position. I'm aware that the schools are making the best offer as they can around that. That is also supported by what we call the Futures Programme, where there are a number of courses offered by MPTC College in Brecon, and they are more around the vocational type courses, and they would be included in that curriculum offer. And if the proposal goes forward, and obviously we'll be looking to make sure that that offer of the option blocks at Key Stage 4 could be extended to learners. And that's when we mentioned earlier that there may be some inter-site travel around Key Stage 4. I think it's around that option block area that travel would be incurred.
Last question. What about after-school provision of clubs? Do you envisage that we're going to merge something on the Builth site and something in Llandrindod?
It's interesting. We met with some representative children last Friday in Builth, and one of the issues that was brought up at that meeting was around after-school club, and we were given a very clear steer by many of the children there who actually travel in quite a distance already to the site, that a lot of the clubs actually run during the day. It was an issue that we expect to be raised, and obviously as part of the response to the consultation we need to consider how that access to the after-school clubs can be achieved. But you've already got learners on this site that are travelling a significant distance, especially for Welsh medium.
Okay.
Thank you. Diane Davis, parent of a child in the Welsh stream in Builth High, moved from Brecon High School earlier this year. And I have a child in Brecon High as well. I've got comments rather than questions. My comments are that it's significant that 3 out of the 4 schools that are proposed to be closed and merged are in special measures. I think that's a reflection on the support they've had, not now, but years ago from Powys. The other comment I have is if you want to strengthen the Welsh stream in Builth, you shouldn't just dismiss the semi-rich children and assume they're all going to go to a Sylvera. It costs you a lot more to pay for educating a child out of county than it does in county, and I think that's for the LEA to look at. And if over the years you haven't paid as much transport as you have for children to go out of county, there'd have been more finances for our schools in Powys, certainly in the south area. So I think what you're proposing with this new school over 2 sites, okay, it saves £133,000, but that is not a significant saving. I see that you want to have a larger leadership team. That is needed if they're on 2 sites, and that's why you're not saving a significant amount of money. However, ring fencing the staff seems sensible, but on the other hand, you've said about raising standards and implied that there are pockets that are not as well staffed as others. Therefore, if you're ring fencing all those staff, good and bad, you're not going to help raise the standards. And I think it's very helpful for Powys to have the special measures wiped out by Estin if you open a new school. Those are the end of my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for those comments. Does anybody want to respond, or we just note them? We'll note them, actually. Thank you. Okay. Well, what direct questions were they? They were comments. Okay, thank you. Gentleman here at the front.
Thank you. I'm Freddie Greaves. I'm the applied primary candidate for Brecon Radishire and on the West Wales list. I'm a former pupil and a respected parent. My children are Scottish born in Llandrindod, so they'll be accessing the Welsh medium provision in mid-Powys. So yeah, with the Welsh medium, I'd like to say that I'm very supportive of the plans as laid out in the consultation. I think the expansion of the opportunities for young people in mid-Powys is very exciting in terms of the Welsh medium provision. And likewise, I think it's obvious from everything that's been said that the pressure on the sixth forms is extreme, and having our young people choosing to move out of county in greater numbers each year is something we can't really afford. And if something isn't done urgently, then I think we could end up with no sixth forms at all in Powys. And so that's really the starting point for my question, is the urgency of this issue about sixth forms. Because I don't think the current proposals as they are really addressing it urgently enough. And I do have to question the current proposals and whether or not the disruption and extra workload on the 2 schools is worth what appears to be in the document some limited benefits to the schools. And when I say limited benefits, I've compared the advantages on page 11 and 18 of the consultation document. So these are the advantages of either keeping everything as it is now or moving forward with this proposal. And the only difference is potential efficiencies, and that, as we've already said, that's only 130k, which is about 5%, and a possible action on sixth forms and the Welsh medium changes. And as I've said, the Welsh medium changes I'm very supportive of, but I do think the sixth form action is a bit more important, just to leave it to a possibility in a few years that something might be done. And so really all the disruption that we've talked about in terms of the leadership and the workload on teachers who are already very stressed in Llandrindod and Builth, I think, I mean, as I said, my question is this worth it? Is going forward with this proposal worth it when, bearing in mind in a few years we might be putting them through a similar kind of process as well, if you're talking about closing one of the sites. So, are there other reasons for doing this? Is that, Ian, you mentioned about being compared to similar sized schools. Is it easier for us to have 1,000 pupil school to be compared to others in Wales? Is it harder for a small school when we look at what Labour in Cardiff considered to be the ideal model? They obviously want us to have bigger schools. So are they kind of forcing us into having bigger schools in Powys? Is there a capital problem in remodelling Llandrindod rather than needing to close it? Will we not get the funding from Welsh Government for an 11 to 16 school in Llandrindod and a bigger sixth form in Builth? So could we do this? Could we do the sixth form process quicker if we moved ahead? I know, Ian, you said we're only consulting on these proposals as they are now, but could the potential process of closing Llandrindod sixth form be done quicker? Because there is a real urgency. As I said, we're losing kids rapidly out of county. So yes to the Welsh medium proposal, yes to proposals to reform sixth forms, but are the potential benefits to learning really worth this disruption to our schools?
Yeah, I'll answer the questions, Freddie. I'll answer them in order. We would not be sitting here this evening if we did not think that this is a proposal that will improve the educational provision, well-being and outcomes for the pupils. Categorically, we would not. That is our view, and that is why we've come out to consult.
Why does it say in the consultation teaching, care support and learning experience would be at least as good as what's currently offered, and leadership teams should be at least as good as current leadership? Shouldn't we be stronger, and shouldn't there be evidence about how this will be better in the document that we're looking at?
Well, I take your view that it can't be any worse. We wouldn't put that in. Should we use a different word and say it should be good or excellent rather than at least as good? I take that point. I hope that throughout the evening we've managed to respond to your questions and outline what we feel to be the benefits. I think your reference to larger schools and the Cardiff direction, there's certainly no Cardiff direction to this proposal, but small schools throughout rural areas do struggle to reach the modelled expectations of larger schools due to the issues that we've raised this evening in terms of small schools having non-specialist teaching of significance at Key Stage 3. We are aware of pupils having the same teacher for 4, 5, 6 subjects at Key Stage 3. That impacts as they move through to GCSE. We would hope that this model would resolve that. In terms of your question about I think you referred, correct me if I'm wrong, Freddie, did you say closure of Llandrindod sixth form and you'd made no reference in that to Builth, or did I hear you wrong?
Yeah, no, that's right. I was referring to potentially Welsh, because of the need to keep Welsh medium open in mid-Powys at sixth form level, and also the proposals put forward by the Llandrindod governing body.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I just wanted to have some clarity what you asked. But in terms of closure of a sixth form, quicker than, the answer is no, because there is a statutory Welsh Government school organisation code that you must follow, and I think we've already seen that it is extremely tight to have this done by 1st of September 2017. You have to have 42 days of consultation. I think we've got 49 days of consultation. You have to have the time to prepare the report, and we are expecting considerable response across the two communities. You have to take it back to Cabinet. You've heard it all. So it is not possible to do it, and I think it would be inappropriate to do it anything but at the start of a new academic year. So it's not possible to do it earlier.
Can I just also add some clarity around projected savings? The £133,000 within this consultation document around the proposals around Llandrindod and Builth are just around those proposals around Llandrindod and Builth. There is a further £52,000 or £3,000 included in the consultation documents for Llandrindod and Brecon in relation to the proposal around transferring the Welsh stream from Brecon to this site. So that would make if you included that figure, that's going to make the total savings of about £185,000.
Okay, thank you. Lady at the back.
Anita James, parent of a child who has just moved from Welsh medium in Brecon up to Builth in September. My child now leaves home at 7:30 and gets on the bus at 7:25 to 8 in the morning. I've got 2 other children that are up and coming and hoping to come into Welsh medium education over the next 4 years. We'd like them to not particularly to travel, but we want them to stay in Welsh medium education in Powys. So I would like reassurance, and I am aware, and I think you are as well, that there are a lot of parents in Brecon, of those 30 children that you count, who want assurance, and also children up and coming from Ysgol-y-Banau want assurance that they are not going to have to travel any further than Builth and what we're already having to put our children through travelling to access Welsh medium. There's always been this, and there still seems to be discussions about this possibility of one school. I think the Welsh medium parents from South Powys need an absolute reassurance very quickly. If you want to concentrate the Welsh medium provision and improve it, you need to be telling those parents distinctly that there will be no more moving and that it will be consolidated in Builth and remain that way. You may lose some children out of county, but the majority of children you're losing are not out of county. They're being lost to private schools or to English medium because people haven't got that assurance to continue with it. And I think you simply need to be firm about what the decision is with the Welsh medium to consolidate. If you think you're going to get all those 30 children, you won't be. Don't count them as 30. But you need to encourage them and do it very quickly to improve things.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you for the question. The proposal is that Welsh medium education is delivered on the Builth Wells site of the new school. Should in the future there be any different, that would be subject to further consultation. Okay? We are not proposing anything different at this given point in time. We have got nothing different in our mind at this given point in time. I think reference in the consultation document states a commitment to growing Welsh medium education, and the current proposal is to grow Welsh medium education here at Builth Wells.
Can I also give some clarity around the transport provision? We are governed by a document from Welsh Government called the Learner Wells Travel Measure, and following a case that went to the House of Lords with Ceredigion around Welsh medium provision, if a parent wishes their child to attend a school in another authority, which is their closest school, then the host authority has a duty to transport. If you look at the distances between Brecon and other schools out of county together with the current site in Builth, if you go much further north than Builth, then the schools in other counties become the closest school to Brecon. Obviously, the authority has an aspiration to maintain Welsh medium provision in the south of the county.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? Right, somebody who hasn't asked one first. Gentleman here, and then we'll come back to you.
Thank you very much, Roger Williams. I'm here to give Kirsty Williams his apologies. She called in to the school earlier today, but she's been facing the television cameras and a leader's inquisition this evening. Can I just say that Kirsty and I were really disappointed with the Esting report that Builth had received, and along with Dr. Diane Davis about the level of education in Powys. It's a very serious matter. But I believe, and Kirsty believes, that Builth Wells are putting in place the necessary bricks to improve education. One of them is the appointment of a head teacher rather than an acting head teacher, and also pairing up with another school that has had to show significant improvement to get out of special measures, and I'm sure that will help both as well. But we both actually believe that this is the wrong time to enter into this type of turmoil, which won't actually give the encouragement of Builth Wells to have the certainty of the future and the certainty to improve as well. So our view this is the wrong time for these proposals to come forward, because they won't actually give the encouragement that both Llandrindod Wells and Builth Wells will need to improve the level of teaching, the quality of teaching, the quality of learning that is so important for the pupils.
Okay, thank you for that comment.
Gareth, can I respond,
Yep,
please?
certainly, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Williams, for the comment. Having visited both schools, having discussed with the staff and governors of both schools, I'm providing reassurance here that both schools are fully committed to improve currently throughout this improvement journey. You used the word turmoil. It is a period of concern and anxiety for staff, but I've spoken with both head teachers and they are absolutely committed to the current improvement journey alongside this. And I think you mentioned that, and I need to reassure parents here this evening of that fact as well.
As are the governors.
Thank you, Councillor, as are the governors.
Okay, sorry, there's a gentleman behind you and then we'll come back to you.
Yes, I don't know whether the parents feel the same, but I'm just trying to get my head around why one school on 2 sites will definitely provide benefits and choice, say for under 16s, compared to 2 separate schools on 2 sites. Without using words such as aspiration, can you please just say, give a concrete fact as to why there will be a benefit?
The benefit at pre-16 at Key Stage 3 will be that the schools, through the budget situation, will be in a position where the pupils are taught by less non-specialist teachers.
But why will that happen? The children are still on 2 sites. Why will there suddenly be specialist teachers when they're not on the one site, they're still on the 2 sites? Why will that definitely happen?
You may not be moving pupils, but teachers may move across 2 sites to deliver. And it would be up to the governing body and senior leadership team to ensure that the teachers have the structure of the school enables that to happen. At Key Stage 3 then, that feeds through into Key Stage 4. We've even got examples of GCSE subjects being taught by non-specialists.
So if it doesn't happen, it'll be the governor's fault?
No, it won't be a fault at all. It'll be a collective goal to ensure that that happens, that the school is supported through the timetabling, through the advice procedures, through ERU for school improvement, to ensure that that happens. The crucial factor in here will be how timetables are aligned between the 2 sites to ensure that teachers have the time to deliver in their specialist subjects.
So it's purely a timetable issue?
It's not purely a timetable issue, but timetabling of it is a major factor. In addition to that, it's how the non-contact time of teachers is structured should travelling be required.
And sorry, a very quick question, maybe not the most important of tonight, but will there be a new school uniform? And from when? After just forking out for a new school uniform now, Bill, will there be a new school uniform?
And that will be a decision for, you know what I'm going to say, sir, for the governing body and of the new school. What we would expect that there is an understanding of the financial implication there. So, for example, where there's a new school in Norfolk County, a school Bro Hyddgen, they're working towards a uniform, over a period of time. And the rules around that currently are fairly relaxed, because what you don't want to do is to put parents in a hardship situation to have to purchase something next week which they only bought and replaced for previous week.
Okay, we've got a question actually. We've got a couple of questions this side. I know you two people have actually asked quite a few. There's a few people that haven't asked. Conscious of the time, so start thinking about the next question if you haven't already asked one previously.
I just have a question about funding. The savings that have been made by the council, will they then fed back into the schools directly? And funding formula, I know Powys schools are worst funded in Wales.
In terms of the savings haven't been built into our medium-term financial strategy for the secondary. These proposals today, they haven't been built in as yet. So there isn't a decision on what happens to those savings as such. So they could be reinvested back into the service, but that decision hasn't been made yet.
And what about the funding formula? Powys planning to look at the funding formula and bring Powys schools in line with other schools. We're considerably better than our Powys.
It's interesting because when we did some work with our colleagues in Ceredigion about 2 or 3 years ago, we did an analysis of their delegated budgets against our delegated budgets. And when you made the adjustments for those areas that they delegated that Powys didn't, and took account of the delivery of special education needs, we got special schools, they haven't. It came out that in our view, our funding was higher than theirs. In their views, their funding was higher than ours. But the differential was minimal. You're talking about plus or minus 0.25%. I haven't done that exercise recently. It's something that we would be looking to do before we start the review of the fair funding formula for 2017-18. There is a requirement to do that review. We don't have to do it on an annual basis. But following the decision by Cabinet yesterday around primary school admissions, there does need to be a review, so we'll be looking at that and looking at the level of delegation to see if there's any other responsibilities that could be passed on to the governing body with the appropriate level of funding.
Yeah, if I could just very briefly add to that. I mean, you've specifically asked around the fair funding formula, but the bigger issue for us is the funding formula for Powys. So I don't want to prolong the discussion, but it's a really significant issue that we don't get the level of money that we think we should get from Welsh Government. If we can make inroads into that, I think that will help the level of funding for education. But one of the biggest drivers, actually, that's stopping us getting more money is the flatlining or the slight reduction in the number of children coming through. That affects the funding, but if we can get more money out of Welsh Government, we'll be able to put more money into education, and that's something that we're actively engaging with Welsh Government around at the moment. So that's all I'd add. Okay,
okay, thank you. We've got a question at the far end.
Okay, so it seems to have established that the immediate saving that's going to be made is very nominal. So clearly it seems to me that this proposal is going to be an interim measure. Something else has got to happen because it can't, the service can't run over 2 sites, particularly when those buildings aren't going to last from what you're saying. And to say that this proposal will run for the foreseeable future kind of isn't good enough for me, really. I've got a child in year 5 and a preschool child, so I want to know how long there'll be an English stream secondary provision in Builth Wells.
I understand your question, but I need to also state that nowhere in the proposal does it state that this is an interim step to anything different.
But it does talk about the possibility of building a new school. It does talk about that, but then goes on to say that a site hasn't been found.
But if that was to happen, there would be a need to hold another formal consultation process.
But that's not good enough for people with your parents when you've got young children just coming into the education system. You want to know if there's going to be a school. And just to say, well, this is for the foreseeable future. What's the foreseeable future? My foreseeable future is quite a long time, actually.
Okay, if we clarify it, the proposal is the proposal. We are not able to stay for the foreseeable future because that's not in the proposal at all. You
said the foreseeable future just before. Somebody on the panel said that this proposal will run for the foreseeable future. But it can't do. If you're only saving £133,000 a year and the buildings are almost at the point of falling down, then it won't. It can't run for the, you know...
Sorry, can I...
Makes sense.
Yeah, can I refer you to page 17 of the consultation document and the third paragraph? And if I read it, what it actually says is that the proposal is the first stage of potential wider plans for secondary education in the area. The second stage, which aims to establish a new school on a single site in the locality of Builth Wells, requires further work to understand the overall capital cost and feasibility. So I think there's a clear indication there that if there was going to be a second stage around looking at a single-sited school, that the authorities currently proposal that would be within the Builth Wells area, because that's what we stated in page 17 of the consultation document.
So the longer-term proposal is probably closing the Llandrindod site.
If we went to a single site, as that paragraph says, that the school would be in the Builth Wells area, subject to capital costs and feasibility.
If I could just ask another question. I mean, I've not really been reassured at all tonight, you know, for making decisions about my children's own education. But I think the question I'd like to ask is how many members of the panel have children affected by these proposals?
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
Could you repeat that?
Yeah, sure. How many members of the panel have children affected by these proposals?
Well, I can only respond for myself. My children have gone past, as you tell by my age, past school age.
It's easy to make these decisions then, isn't it?
Sorry?
It's easy to make these decisions when you're not, I think is the point I want to make. You're not affected.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit unfair, actually. I mean, I think the officers here have been extremely professional. They've done their level best to give you honest, direct answers to all of your questions. I think that's a little bit unfair to, and it's a bit leading, so can we move on? Very conscious of the time. We did say we were going for 2 hours. We're at that point now. I'm conscious a number of people haven't asked questions. For example, the lady at the back, so I'm going to give you opportunity. Probably a couple of quick questions from people who haven't asked any questions this evening before we perhaps bring the meeting to a closure. Thank you.
Hiya, I just wanted to ask, we've talked a lot about the sort of education side of the schools, but I want to talk a little bit about the pastoral side of the support and how that might change with the two schools coming together. I know that I come from a service that supports the school in the sort of pastoral sense, and I rely heavily on the knowledge of the senior leadership team and the information that they can provide me to support a child and a family going to the school. And I just worry that having one senior leadership team across two schools and how that's going to affect their knowledge on families, like, you know, the real sort of nitty-gritty knowledge of the families and the children. And my other question was about, would there be potentially, could you foresee sort of managed moves between the two sites if a young person wasn't happy in the Builth site? Could they possibly move to the Llandrindod site? Would it be in one school? Because that's something that I come across quite a lot in my post.
Thank you. Yeah, the two valid questions, given a little bit of a different slant to the questions that have been asked this evening, so thank you for that.
Sorry, really nervous as well.
Sorry? I believe it or not, so am I. So in terms of the pastoral, the school would have a system to deal with the well-being of the children, whether they're on the Builth Wells site or the Llandrindod site. They would have an ethos of inclusion. They would have a pastoral manager, and they would ensure that there's a system, whether it's head of year or pastoral managers, that would ensure that the well-being of the children is at the utmost of consideration. If a child is happy and wants to come to school, they are halfway there in terms of learning. If they are not happy within the learning environment, then they will struggle. I think the managed move one is a very interesting point you make, because one of the benefits of this is if there is a situation in a school where that learner is not, at that given point in time, functioning to their full potential, there's a possibility then that the decision of the school, liaising with parents, with the guidance and advice of local authority, that a managed move across sites could be possible. But that really would need to be for the school to negotiate that with the parents to ensure that that child feels included, whether it would be for a short period of time and then go back to their original site, because also you've got the friendship groups that are important as well. So all of that would be the decision of the school in consultation with the parents, and if need be, other agencies as well. Because, you know, where a child is struggling within school, there are sometimes other factors external to the school where you need to involve other agencies of support.
I just wanted to sort of add to that. When sort of young people are having or experiencing difficulties in one school and they sort of opt for this sort of managed move, it's quite often because they want a fresh start and they want to sort of try and reinvent themselves. But with teachers potentially moving from different schools, not that teachers are the issue a lot of the time, but with teachers potentially moving across the two sites, they're not possibly getting the opportunity of that fresh start and that sort of opportunity to reinvent themselves, I suppose.
Yeah, I understand what you are saying, but it's the system of the school that you're looking at here. It would concern me if a child was a learner, a pupil, was not functioning in a school because of the teachers, because it's the duty of the school to ensure that every child is an individual, and every individual has different needs, and it's the responsibility of the school to ensure that the teachers understand that.
Yeah, and I wasn't suggesting that it was potentially the teachers, but it might be an issue that the young person is sort of struggling with and why they have difficulties with the staff, not the staff.
Yeah, I understand that, yeah.
Okay, we're going to take one final question. I think there's a gentleman at the side who was waving frantically earlier. Did you have a question for us? Okay, thank you, Darren.
Dr. Alan Davis, sorry to return to the post-16 education. We know the Welsh Government would like to have 25+5 courses available to each child. Following the merger, how many, and it's important to have equality of opportunity for a pupil that's receiving their education through the medium of Welsh or through the medium of English. Following the merger, how many courses do you expect to be provided through the medium of Welsh and through the medium of English? You know the numbers, you've done the modelling. Do you know how many courses you expect to achieve?
In terms of funding, if you look at our largest sixth form, which is in Crickhowell, that school is a English medium secondary school. Their sixth form is around about 180 learners. They are currently being funded to deliver 26, 27 subjects as a single language school. If the authority wished the new proposed school to deliver 25 subjects in both Welsh medium and English medium, you'd be looking at a sixth-form cohort of around about 300 or even a little bit higher. The way we fund our schools at the moment, we provide a school with a sixth form that is delivering subjects both in English and Welsh medium, an additional 2 courses. So I would expect if we've got the school delivering 26, 27 subjects, around about 8 to 9 of those may well be through the Welsh medium and the rest through the English medium. We have got examples in the authority, especially in the north of the county, where some of the schools actually deliver AES and A2s bilingually, where you've got a single teacher teaching children both in the English medium and Welsh medium. But I'm not in education. I think that may be quite a specialist school to actually deliver that model. So if you wanted the full offer of subjects, 25 subjects both in Welsh medium and English medium, we'd need to have a sixth form of over 300.
So that is 17 through the medium of English and 8 through the medium of Welsh. 17 isn't a lot better than what's actually being provided at the moment.
It's significantly higher than what's offered across the 2 sites currently. Because of the 14, 15 subjects that's delivered on this site at the moment, 5 or 6 of them are through the Welsh medium.
Okay, colleagues, it's come to that time of the night, actually, where we have to bring things to a close. Can I, first of all, thank you all very much for your attendance this evening and your contribution and your questions. Before you shoot off, you will notice there are ladies at the back and gentlemen with yellow questionnaires for you. The consultation process goes on until the 23rd of May, so you have ample opportunities to send responses or written comments in about the proposals. Please take a questionnaire from the back, and if you want to write into us, please write into ORS, and we will analyse the data and present it to the officers to present to Cabinet. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Safe journey home.